Very scary.
Everyone knows that sharks are already pretty scary, but I've got to be honest with you guys. I've never seen one like
No.
I mean, this thing was caught in Portugal in 2017, and it looks more like a horror movie monster than it does an actual animal. Like seriously, this thing is 80 million years old and is basically a living fossil, as well as being ultra rare. If you do the math, that means it existed around the same time as the T-Rex, and trust me, it's just as terrifying. For a start, it's got huge creepy eyes and an insanely long body, so it looks more like a giant eel than a shark. Not just that, but it has over 300 teeth in its giant mouth, which it uses to eat other sharks whole. It's, well, pure nightmare fuel, which is why I find it so funny that it's called a frilled shark, which is just way too innocent a name for something that looks like that. Anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new killer shark movie about this shark in particular, because it makes Jaws look kinda harmless by comparison. Number 4. There are two things you always see in haunted houses: creepy dolls and paintings with eyes that follow you around the room. Both those things are pretty scary, but someone had the crazy idea to combine the two, and they ended up with something way worse. That's right, someone decided to make an ultra spooky doll that looks at you wherever you go, and there's nothing cute about it. Like, even if the stare wasn't enough to freak you out, the doll is smiling and showing off super sharp teeth, and there's a bottle of red liquid next to it that looks like blood. Everyone in Brazil where this thing was found is calling it a devil doll, and to be quite honest, I can't blame them. I mean, even if it is just like an optical illusion that its eyes seem to follow the camera, it's the kind of thing you'll accidentally think about right before you go to sleep. So with that said, I haven't even told you the scariest bit yet, because where this doll was found makes it even worse. It was actually found in the middle of a graveyard by itself, which is maybe the only way to make such a scary doll even more frightening. Number 3. Scary supernatural stuff is nothing new, but sometimes the normal world is enough to really freak you out. In fact, the deeper into the ocean you go, the scarier things get, and by the time you hit around 1.5 miles deep, well, you might accidentally find this thing. Just a warning, if you think squid are freaky, then you might want to look away now, because this one is on a whole other level. I mean, for a start, it's around 26 feet long, but since basically nothing is known about the species, it could actually grow way bigger. Not just that, but scientists think it feeds by dragging its crazy long tentacles along the bottom of the ocean and trapping whatever is unlucky enough to bump into them. As if that wasn't creepy enough, this squid is the only one with tentacles that have elbows, which makes it look even more alien than it already did. So I don't know, there's just something about creatures like that floating way below the surface that's just terrifying to think about, especially if they're almost 2 stories tall. What? Number 2. Maybe it's just me, but empty schools always seem to give off a creepy vibe, and this video proves my point exactly. Like, this school should have been totally abandoned over the weekend, but at about 3 AM, something super weird starts to happen. I mean, at first, it's not that noticeable, but it looks like they're like flashing lights coming from behind a door, and there's a huge bang like something heavy just got dropped. Then, a little later, a row of lockers start to shake like crazy, almost as if something's rattling them. Now, all of that could have been caused by anything really, but then things get super weird because one of the lockers flies open. It's obviously not the wind because it's a totally different locker than before, and once the things fly out, they lay completely still on the ground. Obviously, that's pretty freaking creepy, but the principal might not have called Ghostbusters if it wasn't for the last part, because the whole thing ends with the wet floor sign being violently pulled out of the shot, but by nothing at all. So yeah, I'm never going to that school ever in my life. Okay, here's our honorable mention.
Are those fireworks? What is that?
They look like some fireworks or something.
Aliens? I don't know.
What the heck
Where
is
is that? You see it, right?
I'm actually, yes,
Okay.
I do see it.
Okay.
It's getting weirder by the second.
I know.
It's like they're sticking around.
We're gonna do some
Anybody?
digging and figure out what that is. Back in a moment.
Number 1. Nothing is scarier than driving down a dark country road alone, but I still don't usually expect anything this creepy to ever happen. I mean, this happened so subtly that even the guys driving weren't sure what was going on until it got super creepy in just a couple seconds. Basically, they were just driving when one of them saw what looked like a man walking in the distance, but the dude was completely white and glowing. It could have partly been the headlights, but the closer they got, the less human he looked, and finally, he just vanished altogether. Now that's already pretty spooky, but when they doubled back, they saw him again, and this time, it was clear something was wrong. How? Well, as soon as the figure realized he had been spotted, he made a break for it and started to run, but then he just faded out of existence completely. Yeah, that's right, the dude just straight up vanished into thin air, and probably made this group of guys want to get home as soon as humanly possible.
భద్రా ఎవరో ఉంటాడా నిల్చుకొని ఎవరికో కాస్తుంటాడు కొంచెం ఫాస్ట్ ఇప్పాడు బయట రా ఫాస్ట్ కానీ భయం ఉంటా బయట కెమెరాలో తీస్తున్నాను చూస్తాం మేము
ఏమో అట్లుంది